All right, in this video, we are going to learn how to create a properly structured HTML document. So what we did in the last video was a little paragraph, and that's about it. And the browser was able to understand that that was an HTML document. And there is actually a proper way to structure HTML pages. So what I'm going to do is just open up VS Code here, and you can see it just behind me. And I'm going to create a new file. You can hit Command N over and over and over again if you wanted to, or Control N, or go to File, and then just New File. And here is where I'm going to create a file called helloworld.html. So now at this point, I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to save it right beside paragraph.html. It's just in a folder called websites. So if I go to my desktop, where are you? Right there. Go into website, and I'm just going to call this hello_world.html. Please try not to use spaces. Spaces can get a little bit messy. So in the web development world, we try not to use spaces or any sort of special characters other than a dash or an underscore inside of a file name. So we'll save that as helloworld.html. Now a proper HTML file will have an HTML tag. Actually, it'll have an element, so everything gets wrapped in this. So we have an opening tag here, and we have a closing tag here, and we put a bunch of stuff in the middle. So we also put this one called a head, and we also put one in here called a body. And so in here, we are now nesting HTML elements. So this is basically saying to the browser, hey, this whole thing is an HTML document. Make sure you read it as HTML. There's actually one more step we have to take, but we'll learn about that a little bit later. Next, we're saying inside of that HTML element, there is a head element, and this is where we're going to store all of the knowledge about the page. So you can actually think about this as your own head on your own body. It's where your brain lives. It holds all the information about the page. And inside the body is where all the guts of the page are. It's where everything actually happens. And when you load a website, it's what people actually see. So anything that goes in the head is not typically visible, and anything that goes in the body is visible. So from our last video, we created Hello World from paragraph.html, and all we're going to do is recreate that. So in VS Code, I'm going to show you this cool little thing. So I just hit P and then tab, and it says there's an Emmet abbreviation here. So I'm going to hit P, hit tab, and it just creates the tags for me. That's really nice. Not all editors do that. Sometimes you have to write it out manually. So I'm going to write Hello World with proper structure. Cool, so that's all saved up. I'm going to open up Firefox. I'm going to close that tab, and I'm just going to open up this file. So I just hit Command O, I just selected hello world.html. Let's make this bigger, way bigger. There we go, we can read it now. Hello world with proper structure. So it doesn't look any different at all. But if we right click and view source, we can see that we have HTML in here, we have head, we've got some body, and things are starting to look a little more structured. And so that is the typical way that we structure an HTML website. Now there's one more thing we need to do here. We can actually see that this HTML in here, again, I'll make that a little bit bigger. We can see HTML is in red. We actually want that to not be in red. And I think the reason it's doing that is because we are missing one important aspect of this page. We have this thing called a doc type, and we will learn about this in its own dedicated video. But for the time being, just to make that sort of error go away, we are going to write this line. So we have a less than bracket, exclamation mark, doc type in lowercase or uppercase. You'll see it in both scenarios, and then just simply HTML. And what this is saying is when your browser loads all of this text, the first line it's going to see is doc type HTML. The browser says, oh, okay, I understand that this is HTML. This is not plain text. This is not a PDF. This is not anything else. This is an HTML document. So now when I go back to Firefox and I refresh, you can see that that red HTML goes away, and it seems like this was accepted. And you can actually see that that changed some of the spacing in there. So let's go ahead and let's just delete that. To delete a whole line in VS Code, I hit Command X, probably Control X to delete a whole line. I'm not entirely certain if that is a default setting or not, if that's going to be across the same across the board for everybody. So let's maybe not do the shortcut. I'll just delete the whole thing manually. Save. And when I refresh, we'll see, yep, there's an error. There's no doc type. and the spacing doesn't work out the way it's supposed to. So right now the browser is saying, I don't know if this is supposed to be proper HTML or not. I think it is, but I don't know for sure. So I'm going to undo that with Command Z or Control Z. Simply save that as hello world.html. Refresh my page. We got a little spacing up there. That's totally okay. We can work with that. So your task for this video is, I would like you to create a new file called hello_world.html. You don't have to worry about your doc type for now. You can completely ignore that if you like. Create an HTML tag. It also needs a closing tag to basically create the whole element. Inside of this element, we're going to have a head tag. You can leave a space in there, or you can simply keep it like that. It doesn't really matter. We'll talk about white space in HTML a little bit down the road, so just bear with me on that one. Create your head tag, create your body tag, and then put hello world with proper structure inside of a paragraph. Do that, open up your browser, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, doesn't really matter. And then just open up that file and just see that your text shows up as normal. Again, this is going to be very similar to the last lesson, but this one has proper structure so that your browser says, oh, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do.